This is a review of Survivor Season 46, episode... All right, folks, here's the deal. In the original cut, I said that this was episode 11, but it is in fact episode 10. So if you might hear me reference this as episode 11 going forward, just know this is a note from the editor, me, that this is in fact episode 10 of Survivor. Back to the program. Welcome Richie back to the program. We're 11 episodes deep. Today we're going to be recapping the insane episode 11. We're down to the final 8. We recap the whole episode. We're going to talk about which Survivor castaways stock has gone up, which stock is going down. We got some questions for Jeff. And we're going to predict who goes home next week. Spoilers ahead. And spoilers, I guess, right away, saying that neither of us picked the correct person going home.
It's sad.
But luckily we got a very delicious, satisfying, I would say, blindside out of it. So it's okay. I would say it's okay. What did you make of episode 11, Richie? And how's the season already ranking for you? Like if you were to tier survivors, right? Like the best one, I think David and Goliath is up there. Maybe Pearl Islands or like one of the Heroes Villains. Probably amazing. That's top tier. Where does this one starting to feel as of right now?
I mean, it's definitely getting up there. By far, it's the best one of the new era from like 41 and on.
Whoa!
Like I don't even think it's close.
Yeah.
But I think it's starting to grow on me into like the top 10.
Yeah.
The only thing I would say holding it back for me is that we haven't had like alliances really. Mm-hmm. You have Maria and Charlie who have kind of been together the entire time. But other than that, I mean, not really any solid alliances. No groups of like 5 or 6 that have just dominated or that have like tried to break off. So that's the one thing I do kind of like to see. I like to see when there's like a 6 versus 4 and the 4 brings somebody in and they make a big play.
Yeah. And we're not
getting any of that, but
I feel like season 45, last season, when D won, that one, that was a solid alliance all the way, to the final 5. Too. Yeah, dominant, man. And none of them were really even threats when they all should have been a threat, arguably. This season, it is definitely getting up there, like in a fantastic way. No one is successfully using their advantage. No one, which is pretty insane. But it's also been ways where it's like, dang, that just shows you, I don't know, that just the social gameplay, everyone is fooling everyone enough to where you're not playing idols and you're not even wasting idols, but we're not even seeing that. They're just going home with them. That's pretty impressive.
Gotta be very hard to trust anybody at this point.
100%.
Like normally I feel like you have some bit of trust. I don't think you can have any bit of trust at this point for anybody.
Yeah. We saw it with the end of episode 10. And episode 9, I think maybe was the one where Q was like, I'm going to quit. And everyone's like, what? Or maybe that was last. I don't know. He was quitting. And since then, Q has been this sort of smokescreen of like, all right, well, let's send Q home because, he's the crazy one. And we see it play out again tonight, or we see it play out again in episode 11. And I don't know. It still worked. It was pretty good.
Yeah.
What did you make of the episode, I guess, going right into the challenge?
I love that we got a reward challenge.
Yeah.
I love that it was Applebee's. Shout out to Applebee's.
Oh my gosh. Yes. The Applebee's reward challenge. And it's so funny. And I'm glad they talked about it on the podcast, but they did bring up all the kind of crazy partnerships they've done before. They've done Sprint phones where it's like you get to talk to your family. Season 2, Jeff was saying they had an iMac and it was like, read instant message with your family right now.
That's crazy.
And he even brought up the fact that everyone went and saw Jack and Jill, the terrible Adam Sandler movie, and they all were like, man, I love Jack and Jill. This is so funny.
Yeah.
It would be like now, because there are ads for it everywhere, if like they went and saw Fall Guy during this, because I feel like that's being pushed everywhere. Ryan Gosling, viral clips everywhere. The Survivor. We got a sneak peek of it last summer or something.
Yeah.
That would have been the movie. He even brought up the Cars. Remember, I think they need to bring that back, by the way. I loved the Cars because like you could be 4th or 5th or whatever they do it, and you win a car. And there was always like, oh, well, at least Rob won a car.
Elon needs to hop on that, bro. Get a free Tesla.
Could you imagine? Yeah. And Jeff was saying too, that brought along the car curse, that if you ever won the car, you would not win Survivor. And to me, I'm like, dude, look, that's a wrinkle in the game. That is significant.
For sure.
No one's like, dude, oh, you did the Outback Steakhouse reward. You're out. No, the car. Bring back the cars. I'd be down with it. And if it's Elon, it doesn't matter what car.
I love that they had the punch bowl there. I think that's such an iconic part of Applebee's, bro.
They really didn't address the punch bowl. I mean, they obviously presented it, but I mean, this wasn't one where everyone got a little too rowdy.
No.
But Applebee's.
But, I mean, we get the craziest moment probably that I've seen in years on Survivor at the end.
Well, and before we get to it, we do get something also that has never before been done. Q wins a challenge. Like that's a pretty big deal. And it was funny because I noticed, I was watching the challenge. At one point, Jeff yells, and Liz is in dead last. And I was like, why did he just point that out? I was like, what? And then I was like, oh, and she was inching back, and I think she got up. Her first throw was like, oh my gosh, she almost hit it. And then Q ends up winning. It was clear to me, I could see a little bit that it was going to be a little bit about Liz. And of course, the Applebee's comes into play. Crazy, really great challenge. Looked exhausting. Like that post, even throwing that bag up there is like, that looks very tall.
Yeah, I mean, some of them weren't even making it like close to the top.
Yeah, dude. There were some terrible throws, and it was like, man, are you fatigued so bad that like, or is that you trying your hardest? Yeah, pretty good challenge. And then, yes, of course, it was 8 people competing, and Jeff presented the Applebee's menu and everything a part of it. And then Q wins, and you never just get one winner. You always get to bring people. One of the more interesting parts of Survivor. A part where, and I heard D say this, but like, these are ones you don't want to win, right? Like, you don't want to win the reward.
Tough, for sure.
You want to be brought, but you don't want to win, because when you win, you're in the tough position of picking who goes with. And there's some crazy wrinkles with this already crazy scene, but to set it up, you get Liz, who brings up this emotional connection to Applebee's. We get photos of Applebee's. It is the greatest Applebee's commercial of all time. And it's not necessarily positive. It's very controversial, and actually does have the internet a little bit divided from what I saw today, because I was like, what are people saying? But Liz ultimately, and of course, the whole big narrative is, I haven't eaten in 72 hours. I can't eat anything. I'm allergic to this and that, which, you signed up for Survivor.
Exactly, dude.
There's a little bit of that. Q ends up picking
Maria.
Yes.
With the last pick, Kenzie.
Maria and the last pick, Kenzie. All strategic picks, good picks. And Liz, like, I actually didn't think for a second Q was going to take Liz. Like, I wasn't like, oh, you know what, he's going to be nice. Because sometimes that happens. Like, you'll hear someone say, hey, I've heard him talk about wanting to see his mom, so much. Let's bring him with. Which someone did have a funny tweet that said, like, Jeff should have also at the end been like, also, it's a family visit.
She would have freaked out. She probably would have had a heart attack.
She would have freaked out. What did she do already?
I don't know, bro.
Like, if that's not a freak out, I don't know what is. But Q does not pick Liz. And what did you make of this absolutely epic meltdown?
Oh my gosh, dude. I mean, talk about like psychotic breakdown. And I mean, I guess that's what happens when you're like depleted and deprived. But again, like you said, she hasn't eaten anything. Why would you come on Survivor if you know you can't eat the things that you need to eat to survive on Survivor? Yeah. To me, that's just stupid. That's your own fault. Or like, don't complain about it. You knew what you were getting into.
Yeah.
And then the fact that she like expected Q to take her just because she wanted it, that pissed me off, honestly. I'm like, oh, this girl is so entitled. She thinks that just because she wants this more than anyone else that he should take her. If she wanted it so bad, she should have won.
And I don't know if you saw Q tweet, but he tweeted that, and he made a good point too. He said, if Liz would have won, do you think she would have picked Q? I don't think so. So why would Q? And it is ultimately like, And really what Q did wasn't, it feels villainous because the new era is so soft, but it was more of just a direct gameplay move. Like it was like, I don't think anyone would have batted an eye, 20 seasons ago that, of course he picked 3 people he needs to align with. And there's someone crying, but it doesn't matter. Like what matters is like, dude, this is a game. And he needs to make things right with Tiffany. He does with Kenzie. He needs to show Maria. Like it was a great gesture, and those were probably the right picks. Didn't take her. And apparently, this is a crazy nugget. So Tiffany went on a podcast, and she basically said that there was more to it. That in the moment where they're all standing there, Kenzie and Maria felt so bad that they said, "Hey, we're going to give up our spots." And like,
it looked like they were like, we're going to.
And they said, Liz, you can go. We know this means a lot to you. We're giving up our spots. You can go. And Q stopped and said, no, I picked who I picked. You are going with me. So awesome. There was even more ruthlessness.
They should have shown that.
And like, maybe she didn't react to it. And so it's like, or maybe it did get out of hand or something. But she full blown said that on a podcast, and I believe Q affirmed it in a tweet as well. But yeah, it absolutely crazy pick. And then they go and they make a big deal of the burger. They zoom in on it. Comes at the very, very, very end.
That was weird too, that it came at the end.
I mean, little something there that came at the end that they've already stuffed. Because, dude, I mean, if you eat like 3 or 4 entrees at Applebee, that's a lot. That's plenty. That's plenty of frozen food.
Those are full entrees too. Like they're not half portions or anything.
And for your burger to be like the last thing you get, like I think maybe, I don't know. That's way too heavy of a last thing. But I guess a lot's heavy there. No one eats the burger. I kind of thought that they were gonna do the like, oh, hey, we brought back some things. Because sometimes that's happened in seasons where they're like, we shoved our pockets full of candy, guys. We got you some candy.
Like, I don't think they're allowed to do that anymore, though.
Yeah, it must have been a point where they're like, it's not going to happen. But they're at the sanctuary. They don't show overnight, but they end up staying overnight. And there we even see that, like, the 3 ladies right there are all kind of like, yeah, Q is not buying our loyalty. And it did feel in that moment like, oh, Q is back on the chopping block.
Which is smart. I mean, like, you can't just because somebody takes you can't like forgive them of however many days of them ruining your game. And it's a good start for Q. It's really the only play he had, but at the same time, like, Kenzie and Tiff are too smart to fall for that.
Yeah.
Maria, I think, has been super smart about it all, still trying to stay on Q's good side. Because, I mean, why not have another number for you and your alliance that she's got right now? So dude, she's playing it good so far with him.
You know, I just had an idea that I think would take a little bit of effort and maybe a little bit more producing to this thing and making it go. And you know what? I'm actually going to be out in your area soon. But so something about Maria made me just have this thought, is that Maria had one of the best confessionals I've ever heard in Survivor, where she says, like, she's talking about making a move against Tiffany. And she's like, in Survivor, you're like kind of at a stoplight. And the light might be red, but if I wait for it to turn green, it might be too late. So I might need to run this red light. And Maria steps on the gas in this episode. And it makes me think, like, dude, we might need to do like a Survivor Awards at the end of the year, breakdown.
Oh, for sure.
You know what I mean? Like, most valuable player, best confessional, challenge beat, whatever. We might need to run that. I don't know. Just an idea. Because
who do you want to see come back, maybe?
Yep, comeback player, which, again, we'll get to that. So a little bit of news, too, at the end of the show about that. Pretty crazy. Hey, we'll get to it. But, yeah, everyone's kind of running around camp. It feels like Kenzie, the big note in Tribal when the votes come out is that Kenzie isn't the orchestrator of the Tiffany vote. She kind of backs off from it. Like, she presented it last episode, and it was like, whoa. And she even felt herself like, maybe it is too soon. Pulls back on it, but then it becomes everyone else's plan because Q is just this obvious smokescreen. Did you see it only going to Q, or did you think like, oh, a blind side's coming?
I had figured that, like, once Maria decided she kind of wanted to go after Tiffany, that she was going to. she knew that she needed to make a move, and this was the perfect time because Tiffany felt so safe.
Yeah.
The only thing that I thought was like surprising was that when I think it was Tiffany and Kenzie sitting on the beach, and they see Maria go and walk over to Q, just them two alone. How does that not like raise a red flag to you to where for Tiffany, oh, like maybe, hey, I should play my idol, or
Yeah.
hey, maybe we need to go after Maria because she's trying to work with Q or something like that.
Yeah. Yeah. And really, we don't see like a lot of gameplay until the immunity challenge. Immunity challenge, Survivor social media, something I've been following too. They showed Gabler's clip last time. He did this challenge. He's a great Survivor winner too.
Yeah.
And it's the grip challenge with the rope, and you got the bucket of water, and you got the pot at the bottom that could break. And we get something interesting from Charlie here, that Charlie, who spoilers of course, ends up winning. And he says that he trained with grip. Like, do you think that would have crossed your mind? Because like Jeff talked about that, he was kind of amazed by that. Like, yeah, I've never really thought of that. But Charlie, as a very intuitive fan, went, most of these challenges are how long can you squeeze? Do you think that would have crossed your mind? And what grip workouts would you do?
I don't know if it would have crossed my mind, honestly. Because yeah, there are some, but at the same time, I feel like the ones that I would want to like, because I feel like I would do pretty good with the grip strength ones, just regardless. I would want to focus more on some of like the holding on, like wrapping your arms around a pole kind of ones, stuff like that.
Yeah.
Because I mean, I work with my hands every day. Like I feel like my grip strength is probably above average.
True.
So, but yeah, I mean, he's not wrong at all. Like that is for somebody who isn't the biggest person, that's such an advantage to have.
Yeah. And like it was very Carson like. I mean, Carson kind of set the standard for like insane super fans
for sure.
But yeah, like it was like, wow, this guy was really thinking about Survivor, and he was really prepared to come out here. Dee said that she didn't practice swimming. That was one thing she wished she did more of. But she did like a bunch of fitness classes and like went really really hard in like the months leading up. So that she was ready, but she's like, the big thing is endurance, is like conditioning, because like you don't have a lot to pull from your body, but like just having that willpower of pushing through and constantly simulating that was clutch. And so that makes a lot of sense. I did think Tiffany had this one, man. Tiffany looked
she looked
solid.
She didn't move a muscle from the time it started until she fell.
Yeah, she was like, did like the perfect just statue.
Yeah.
What you need to do, just hold still, don't get distracted, don't wiggle around a lot. But Charlie held on, and suddenly Charlie is 2 wins in a row.
Oh yeah.
And this is also going to be the second time where someone gets, maybe more than that, where the person who was second, a close second, gets voted out. Hunter last week was a second, but yeah, then we leave this challenge. Charlie again wearing the necklace. We get to tribal council, and man, really, you kind of get to the votes being read, because I kind of did think it was Q2. After all the deliberation and everyone going back and forth, and it was until like, I don't know, Tiffany, and they're getting such great reactions out of people because these blind sides are so strong.
Kenzie's reaction was wild.
Yeah.
She was like, genuinely had zero idea at all.
And this is resume building time too. So she had to be I was frustrated for her that like this was her move and she's not seeing it out. I mean, it's working out. Like honestly, Tiffany's
and it's got to be tough. Like you got to think that you need to try to not show that much emotion to the jury.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because I mean, at the end, you could say, "Hey, I knew about it. Like I was a part of it. I was ready for it."
Yeah. But, yeah, and it was like, oh, it's too soon. But now, I mean, in a tough spot. And she wrote Q's name down too, so it's like, oh man, is that relationship now fractured? So we get another survivor, going home. Do you make anything else of the episode of Tribal, of how it all played out?
No, I think that pretty much hit. I think we hit everything we needed to hit on that one.
Yeah.
I'm excited for next week, to see where it goes.
Yeah.
I think Maria has like put herself in the best position to win out of anybody.
Yeah. So stock up, stock down. Let's get right into it.
My stock up is for sure Maria.
Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah. I mean, she's setting herself up perfectly. She has been behind a couple of the biggest votes.
Yeah.
She's made good moves. She's likable. She hasn't made any enemies. So
Yeah, and I'm going to say Maria as well, but I want to make a case
mhm.
for Q because I do feel like the tide's turning a little bit on him. And
Yeah.
yeah, he's kind of been I really like when you're talking to the jury at the end and you say my name was written down X amount of
Hmm.
times and
Oh yeah.
I did not go home. I think and
Yeah.
Q now has that. And Q could turn on the challenge ability. He won a challenge this
Yeah.
episode. I think there's a case for Q, and he's a little bit of a free agent now too, and people might catch
Hmm.
on that Maria, Ben, and Charlie are kind of the three that are the closest thing we have to an alliance now. And yeah, down to 7. It's like it's um,
Feel.
Venus and Liz from Orange left, and then
Yeah.
And Kinsey and Tiffany from Purple. And so
Hmm.
it's Green has the
The only
numbers
thing
right
that I
now.
think the only thing
Or
I think that
sorry,
sucks
Kinsey and
for
Q. Yeah.
Q, I don't think that the jury will respect Q as much because of him saying he wants to go home. Even
Right.
if he tries to spin it as, "Hey, that was gameplay. I was doing that on purpose."
Yeah.
Whereas I think in like prior seasons, like 35 and below, I think people would have respected that a little bit more, and you would have gotten more credit for that. I don't
Yeah.
think you'll get as much for that here, but you never know.
Yeah. I think
We've
yeah.
gotten some weird winners,
Yeah,
so.
I see a path for Q. He wins a couple more
Hmm.
immunities. He sways a vote to here or there. Maybe he finds an idol,
Yeah.
because people knew Tiffany had an idol, so that idol is fully in play.
Hmm.
I like that. So possibility for Q, but I'm also going with Maria. Stock down. Who do you got?
Stock down. I mean, I'm going to go with Liz.
Yeah.
Pretty easy answer. I think she kind of just went way too hard and was just way too psychotic this last episode. And I think that never works well for you
Yeah.
to that level, especially when you're like screaming at people. I think Q's going to maybe want to try to get her out if possible.
Yeah, but
So
it's also a tough one because she could totally get brought to the end because if she's sitting out challenges for
easy
jars of
win.
rice, yeah.
Yeah.
And who's gonna vote for Liz if, Liz was complaining or laying around a lot and there is dude, I saw
Yeah.
a rumor
That's
that
true.
like she might be a billionaire, which I really, really doubt. I know that
I mean, she
she
said she like
yeah,
owns multiple companies and everything,
yeah,
but
she said that
I
she's
don't think
very
she would get
set.
votes for. So yeah, they could bring her as just like an easy person to beat
But that is a stock down thing. That doesn't help you win the
for
game.
sure. Yeah. Hmm.
I'd fully agree with that, dude. I'm gonna go Kenzie. I think Kenzie took a stock hit,
Yeah.
unfortunately. Like and I think she is going to be my pick to go home next week.
Ooh.
To
Okay.
skip ahead. But yeah, dude. I just think the only thing she might have is that like her and Q are like the last two of purple if they can get with orange and then but
Yeah.
I don't think Liz wants to team up with Q and I just feel like the
Yeah. Probably
green is
not.
in such control and they know that Kenzie is likable by everyone and that she'd be a great jury member. So I would guess Kenzie goes home next week and I think Kenzie not being on the right side of the vote was a big miss. I did like that she stepped back and went into the challenge and was like, "No, I'm going to play unless
Yeah.
everyone was
Oh, that was
stepping out."
cool.
That was
Hmm.
cool. Ultimately, didn't prevail, and yeah, I see Kenzie in trouble. I see her going home next week. That's my stock down. And who's going home next week?
I think my prediction for who's going home, I think I'm going to go with Charlie. I think he's kind of establishing himself as a challenge beast now, and I
Yeah,
think, I mean, at least if they're smart, if he doesn't win, they get him out.
maybe
Because I mean,
Maria
otherwise
makes
he
a big
could.
mide and blindsides her. If
I mean,
you
if
have
she
to have a
does that,
blindside
give
on
her the
your own
money
team,
right now.
right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, 100%. I'm with you.
Mhm.
Yeah, Charlie, great pick. I think I keep thinking Charlie. I'm like, we all see it at home that Charlie
If
is.
they're smart, yeah.
Yeah,
But then again, what are they not seeing? I mean, granted, you got to be seeing that he's winning all these, and
yeah, yeah. Ben had a really quiet episode,
all the other
so
challenge beasts are kind of going home too. Like Hunter went home,
yeah,
Tiffany went home.
Tiffany. Yeah, I guess it does make sense to get out the person who got second place in an immunity challenge because,
Yeah,
yeah, I mean they're gonna be right there to compete. But
I think
um,
Ben easily gets brought along though, just because I
yeah,
mean he hasn't done anything really all game. I think he'll be one that makes it to the end just because everybody knows that they can beat him.
there's got to be a puzzle on the next challenge next week because this week it was like land or hold.
Hmm.
Like we haven't really seen who's a puzzle master yet. I feel like
Yeah, true.
except for the big team puzzles. So
Yeah,
yeah, remember when they had They did the like words one where you had like so many letters and it's like how many words can you make with this, and they had like chalkboard
Oh yeah,
challenges. Yeah,
those are
they
cool.
don't do those very often anymore. Not as exciting writing words.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, all right. Questions for Jeff, and mine actually has to do with the fact that that story is out now that Tiffany or
Hmm.
that Q did not let Maria or Kenzie give up their spot. Is how ironclad are these NDAs? Like they have NDAs, and
Hmm.
so I did some research, and actually a website called TMZ actually did some stories on which I'm like that is right up their alley.
Yeah.
They did two stories. It was from Alec from David vs. Goliath,
Hmm.
who also went on to be in the White Lotus. Apparently, he broke his NDA. He posted a selfie and just said like "fuck it" or something.
Oh wow.
And it was him and someone. It was him and a girl from the season, but the season hadn't even aired yet. And
Oh dang.
I think the NDAs are set for $3 to $5 million. It's one of those two. I forget which, but they only charged him, I believe, 50,000. Maybe it was 10,000. Obviously, that's a big difference. And he wasn't able to come to the reunion show. So
Oh.
that was the punishment. But also, it
Okay.
wasn't. They didn't charge him the full.
Maybe
And
because he didn't give away anything that like kind of gave stuff away for the
right. Yeah,
season.
he didn't say, "Oh, she won," and
Yeah.
they both were not winners, so it didn't really matter. But
Hmm.
he struck up a relationship with, Mike White, ended up in the White Lotus. Awesome. But yeah, he broke it, but I am curious like how these NDAs work. And apparently what I'd read too is that like because they're all big Survivor fans, it really means a lot to them to not tell people. They don't want to
Oh,
tell
for sure.
people.
Yeah.
But apparently that's been issues with like Venus and even like and yeah, they do all go on podcasts right when they're voted off, and I'm like,
Yeah.
that has to be aligned somewhere where and
It'd be hard not to like give something away that you
yeah.
aren't supposed to.
And I've never listened to one of those interviews, so I don't know how much they reveal
Yeah.
anyway. But yeah, I just that's my question. It's like how do you judge that? How do you police it? Because yeah, I don't know. I imagine that becomes an issue.
I think my question for Jeff is how do you keep a straight face when somebody like Liz is just going off?
Yes,
I
that's a
would
good
just
question.
love to hear his like thought process when that happens
Yeah,
because it
dude,
doesn't happen very often.
and he has been like it's why I think he's maybe the best television host of all time, which
Yeah.
of course I'm biased. This is the best show ever. But like he's been in a lot of situations where people are saying some crazy things or doing crazy things.
Hmm.
Like and he's had who like these moments like like you will lose them if you don't act the right way. You know what I mean? Like they're so precious
Yeah.
of like, oh my gosh, we're in a really raw moment and she actually is losing it. Do I calm her down? Do I ask her more questions? Do I keep it like yeah.
Yeah.
And is his brain going a million miles an hour?
Has to be.
How is he like still being a human reacting but also still being a host going, there's a
Hmm.
story here and we need to figure
And
out
being professional and everything. Yeah.
how to tell it. And yeah, he has to be so selective of like, because dude, she was mentally falling apart. There's like, if he would have called for a medic, I would have been like, yeah, maybe.
Makes
That's
sense.
like, hey, I wouldn't think that's a crazy choice. Um, but yeah, it's a good question. It's a fair question. He's
Hmm.
yeah. Another question I'd have for him too is as we wrap up the show here is he made an announcement in Los Angeles, live in Hollywood, that Survivor 50 will have returning players.
Yeah.
Richie, what's your reaction to that? And how do you want to see returning players come back?
I love that. And I'm super excited. I want them to go from like season, I think it's season 35 was the last season that nobody has been brought back from. I want them to do from like 35 to current because I think that'd be
Only?
cool to get some.
Only?
Yeah. I mean, I love a lot of
I guess
those other
40 has,
Survivor players,
technically 40 has
but it
people.
would be obviously no 40, no season 40,
Okay.
no winners. I like when they do nobody that's won before
Yeah.
because I think there were some players from like those David and Goliath. There's a one or two from like Ghost Island, Island of the Idols that I think could make for good television.
Yeah.
And it'd be cool because they're almost considered old era now, even
Yeah.
though
Crazy.
They're pre-COVID.
Rick Devens. Bring back Rick Devens.
Yeah, I mean, that one girl, Lauren, the soccer player, she was incredible. I think she'd be good to bring back, but we'll get into that later, I'm sure.
Yeah.
I think I'd want to see like one or two from all the past like 10 seasons, or I guess are we 15 at that point?
Yeah, me and a coworker were looking at like, because I was like, even like, remember Colby was in like season 2, and then he was in Heroes and Villains and maybe All Stars or something. And I was like, remember, he was the young guy in season 2, which season 2 was 2000 or 2001. So if he was the young guy, 24, he's probably in his late 40s now. Could he hang out there? Totally. He totally could. But how far back in their bag will they go? I love it. I think returning players coming back would be epic. I think maybe even doing like a winners versus losers, or like trying to figure out like, having 8 winners or 9 winners from the last, however many, you can say 20 seasons. I'd go back to 30. Okay. And then give me 9 winners and give me 9 of the best players who didn't win. You know, give me a Hunter. Yeah. Give me a Carson. Yeah, Jonathan. Yeah. Like Rick Devens. Give him to me. You know, we'll find some women to get in there too. But for now, I mean, those ones are great, and to bring back the winners. A lot of lady winners though, so it could work out. Yeah. Let's bring Jam Jam back, dude. I need to see Jam Jam win a season where I don't think
he deserves it.
Yeah, exactly, man. Caroline was robbed, man.
Everybody knows that.
God, she was robbed. All right.
I think she's probably like at the top of the people that will be brought back too.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Like I don't see a world where she doesn't get brought back.
Caroline, I would absolutely love that. And so season 50, we're a couple away, but Richie, that means you need to apply so that you can be brought back. You need to get on 48 awesome. And then be like a Russell Hantz where it flips over and you're like, dude, I'm back. I think Bobby John did that too. A couple people did that. Yeah. And then your boss is like, dude, when are you coming back? And you're like, man, don't even worry about it, man. Ice bath's fine. We'll keep it.
I'm making us money.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. You put in your contract that says Ignite, you know, underneath your name. All right, Richie. Well, thanks so much for joining.
Thanks for having me.
This is so good. A scale to 1 to 10, how excited do you get for Wednesday nights? Like when it's, you know what I mean? Like Wednesdays kind of have a Friday feel, and that's like, dude, I got something to look forward to.
I think like pre-podcast, I think I was probably like an 8.3, but now that we're doing this, probably like a 9.2, bro. Because like I'm watching it with like more intention now.
Yeah, 100%. No, I'm watching. Like I can't just like have it on or like be on my phone or whatever. Like, I'm taking notes, and I'm actually like really trying to think like, what do I think of this? Because it's an easy show to talk about. We love it. But yeah, leave a comment below. Like, subscribe, helps the channel grow. Leave a review on Apple Podcasts, and we'll be back here next week.
Getting down to it, y'all.
Yeah, we're getting close, because I feel like when it's 5 players left is whenever we're on the last episode. So thanks again, Richie.